Nobody was ready for this. Not the fans, not the family, and definitely not Tamar. What started as whispers behind closed doors detonated into a full-blown celebrity meltdown, when one emotional reveal cracked the Braxton world straight down the middle. Cameras weren't rolling. Microphones weren't hot. But somehow, the truth still exploded, and Tamar was left sobbing as a secret she thought was buried forever was dragged into the light. Sources say the moment Towanda spoke, the room went silent. No yelling. No arguing. Just shock. The kind that makes your chest tighten and your ears ring. Tamar reportedly dropped to the floor, shaking, as years of denial, damage control, and carefully curated silence collapsed all at once. And the name attached to that revelation. One nobody expected. One that sent social media into a frenzy within minutes. Private messages began surfacing. Old voice notes were suddenly found. Fans started stitching timelines that didn't add up, and screenshots spread faster than anyone could stop them. One insider claims this wasn't an accident. It was calculated. A long-simmering betrayal finally served ice cold. Twitter erupted. Fan pages turned into war zones. Celebrities started choosing sides without saying names. Subtweets got reckless. Lives went dark. Comments were deleted. And through it all, Tamar's tears became the image nobody could escape. The scariest part. This was only the beginning. Because once one secret breaks free, it drags others with it. And what Towanda revealed next is the reason everyone is asking the same question right now. Was this a warning, or a threat? The night everything shattered didn't happen on camera, but the fallout felt louder than any reunion episode ever filmed. According to multiple insiders, the confrontation unfolded in a private living room with drawn curtains and phones face down, a supposed safe space that turned into a battlefield the second Towanda stopped protecting the secret she'd been carrying. Tamar allegedly thought the meeting was about money, contracts, old resentments. She was wrong. When Towanda finally spoke, her voice wasn't raised. That was the scariest part. Calm. Measured. Like someone who had already decided to burn the house down, and was simply lighting the match. The words hit Tamar like a punch she never saw coming. Witnesses say her face drained of color, as Towanda laid out a timeline Tamar never thought anyone could piece together. Dates. Trips. Late-night calls. Connections Tamar believed were buried under NDAs and favors. Towanda didn't yell. She didn't accuse. She revealed. And that made it lethal. Tamar reportedly stood up, tried to interrupt, tried to laugh it off, but her body betrayed her before her mouth could. Her knees buckled. Her voice cracked. The room froze. What nobody expected was how prepared Towanda seemed. She allegedly had screenshots printed. Not on a phone. On paper. Old SCH. Impossible to delete. Messages that Tamar swore never existed, suddenly right there in black ink. One insider claims Towanda said, "Don't insult me by lying now," before sliding the stack across the table. Tamar's hands were shaking too hard to pick them up. That's when the name dropped. The one that flipped the entire narrative, and sent shockwaves through every group chat connected to this family. A name tied to another woman. Another household. Another public image built on loyalty and redemption. Tamar reportedly screamed that it wasn't what it looked like, that things were being twisted, that people were trying to destroy her. Towanda didn't argue. She just kept talking. That's what broke Tamar. Within hours, whispers leaked out. Not officially. Not cleanly. Just messy fragments slipping into blogs and burner accounts. Family source confirms explosive confrontation. Braxton sisters in total fallout. Fans noticed Tamar's sudden silence online. No tweets. No cryptic quotes. Just gone. Meanwhile, Towanda posted a single vague message about truth and accountability, then turned her comments off. That move alone set the internet on fire. Then the clips started resurfacing. Old interviews fans once laughed at now felt ominous. Side-eye moments. Awkward pauses. Tamar insisting she was misunderstood. Towanda looking uncomfortable but quiet. People started asking why Towanda had always changed the subject when certain topics came up. Why she defended Tamar even when it hurt her own image. The narrative flipped overnight. Towanda wasn't the hater anymore. She was the holder of receipts. Celebrity reactions made it worse. One singer liked a shady tweet then unliked it. A reality star posted, "Family betrayal hits different," with no context. Another unfollowed Tamar entirely. Fans noticed everything. TikTok timelines exploded with slow-motion breakdowns and conspiracy threads. Someone claimed there was audio. Someone else swore legal teams were already involved. Tamar's camp denied everything, but the denials sounded rehearsed, thin, panicked. Behind the scenes, insiders say Tamar was calling everyone. Old friends. Former managers. Anyone who might know what Towanda had and how far she was willing to go. But Towanda wasn't answering. That silence screamed louder than any interview could. One source close to the family says Towanda felt used for years, forced to protect an image while swallowing her own anger. This, allegedly, was her breaking point. The most chilling detail came late that night when a source claimed Towanda looked Tamar dead in the eyes and said, "If I wanted to end you, this wouldn't be how." That line alone sent fans spiraling. Because if this wasn't the endgame, then what was it? What else existed that hadn't been shown yet? By morning, hashtags were trending worldwide. Tamar's name sat next to words like betrayal and exposure. Towanda remained silent. And then, just as people thought the worst had already surfaced, a blogger claimed something even bigger was coming, something involving a third voice, a private recording, and a night nobody was supposed to remember. By the second wave of fallout, the narrative stopped feeling like gossip and started feeling like a coordinated collapse. Overnight, private conversations that had lived safely in encrypted apps began leaking in pieces, not enough to show the full picture, but just enough to suggest something much darker underneath. People who had sworn they would never speak suddenly found their friends speaking for them. A single line from a leaked message went viral. "I covered because I thought it was temporary." Nobody knew who wrote it, but everyone assumed it was about Tamar. What rattled fans wasn't just the implication, it was the pattern. Old moments resurfaced with new meaning. Tamar abruptly leaving events. Towanda stepping in to deflect questions. Awkward laughter during interviews when certain topics came up. The internet stitched it together like a crime board, red strings everywhere, faces circled, dates lined up. What once looked like sisterly loyalty now looked like damage control. An insider alleged that Towanda hadn't planned to speak that night at all. The confrontation only happened because Tamar allegedly tried to preemptively spin the story to someone else in the family, framing herself as the victim of jealousy and sabotage. That move backfired catastrophically. The person she confided in allegedly went straight to Towanda and asked one simple question, "Is this true?" Towanda didn't answer right away. She didn't need to. Her silence was confirmation. From there, everything accelerated. Towanda allegedly realized Tamar wasn't just protecting herself, she was rewriting history. And for Towanda, that crossed a line she could no longer step back from. Sources claim Towanda felt she'd spent years sacrificing her own credibility, swallowing her own. Then came the burner accounts. New profiles popped up out of nowhere, posting vague, but pointed statements. Some people cry when the truth catches up. Loyalty doesn't mean lying forever. None of them named Tamar, but fans didn't need names. Every post was dissected, matched to timelines, compared to speech patterns. One account was quickly linked to someone who'd once worked closely with the family. That connection alone sent speculation into overdrive. Behind the scenes, Tamar's camp was reportedly scrambling. One source claimed emergency calls were made to platforms, asking about takedowns before anything had even been posted. Another said Tamar personally reached out to someone she hadn't spoken to in years, asking if they still had old devices. That request alone raised alarms. Why would you worry about old phones unless you feared what was on them? The most unsettling twist came when a producer allegedly hinted that footage existed outside the family's control. Not from a show. Not from a network. From someone's personal archive. A moment captured casually, never meant for public eyes, but devastating if recontextualized. The producer didn't confirm it. He didn't deny it. He just said, "I wouldn't want that version of myself seen either." Fans took that and ran. As the pressure mounted, Tamar reportedly spiraled emotionally. Insiders say she vacillated between fury and fear, lashing out one moment, sobbing the next. She allegedly accused Towanda of betrayal, of trying to destroy her legacy, of choosing truth over blood. Towanda's alleged response was chillingly calm. "I chose reality," she said, according to one source. That line alone spread through fan communities like wildfire. Social media chaos hit a new level when a well-known celebrity, someone respected for staying neutral in drama, posted a cryptic message about protecting lies until they rot everyone involved. The timing was too perfect to be coincidence. Fans flooded their comments, demanding clarification. The post was deleted within minutes, but screenshots live forever. The implication lingered. At the same time, Tamar's silence grew heavier. When she finally posted, it wasn't a denial. It wasn't an explanation. It was a plea about mental health, about pressure, about being misunderstood. While some fans sympathized, others saw it as deflection. The comment sections turned brutal. Address the issue. Stop dancing around it. Tell the truth. The divide was vicious. Towanda's inner circle reportedly urged her to release a statement, anything to control the narrative. She refused. According to insiders, she believed Tamar would reveal more by trying to save herself than Towanda ever could by speaking. And that belief proved correct when Tamar allegedly reached out to someone she thought was still loyal, only to be told, "I can't protect you anymore." That rejection reportedly broke her. Then came the alleged ultimatum. A message, not posted publicly, but whispered about everywhere. It supposedly warned that if the narrative continued to be twisted, context would be provided. Not receipts. Context. That word terrified fans more than any screenshot ever could. Context implies intention. It implies motive. It implies that what people think they know is incomplete. Family members were reportedly caught in the crossfire, forced to choose sides without fully knowing the truth. Some pleaded for silence. Others quietly distanced themselves. One relative allegedly said, "This isn't about sides anymore. It's about accountability." That statement alone suggested the family knew more than the public ever would. As night fell, the tone shifted from speculation to dread. Influencers stopped joking. Bloggers started hedging their language. Even people who thrive on chaos seemed hesitant to push further. That kind of collective pause doesn't happen unless something real is looming. And then, just when it felt like the story had reached its breaking point, a new rumor surfaced that reframed everything once again. Supposedly, Towanda wasn't the final voice waiting to speak. Supposedly, someone else had been watching all of this unfold in silence, someone with no emotional attachment left, someone who had already lost everything they cared about. If that person decided to talk, insiders say, it wouldn't just expose secrets. It would rewrite the entire story from the ground up. By the time the fourth morning arrived, the tone had shifted from chaos to something colder and far more dangerous. This was no longer about shock value or viral moments. This was about control. Insiders claimed the atmosphere around Tamar had changed completely, like everyone was bracing for impact. Calls were no longer emotional. They were procedural. Lawyers spoke before friends. Statements were drafted and redrafted, then scrapped entirely. Someone close to the situation described it as the calm before a public execution. The rumored final voice finally began to surface, not loudly, not recklessly, but deliberately. According to whispers, this person had been silent for years, watching Tamar tell versions of a story that benefited her while leaving others to absorb the damage. This individual allegedly had no brand to protect anymore, no contracts on the line, no reason to stay quiet. And that made them the most dangerous presence of all. People claimed they weren't angry. They were finished. As speculation mounted, Tamar's behavior reportedly grew more erratic. Sources said she cycled through apologies that weren't really apologies, explanations that raised more questions than answers. She allegedly insisted she was being misunderstood, that context was being weaponized against her. But the problem was that context was exactly what people were demanding. The more she spoke without saying anything concrete, the more convinced the public became that something critical was being avoided. Towanda's silence remained absolute, and by now, it felt intentional to the point of cruelty. One insider claimed Towanda had already said everything she needed to say privately, and was now allowing the truth to surface on its own terms. Another suggested she was waiting to see who would lie next. Either way, her refusal to intervene became its own statement. Fans who once begged her to speak now feared what would happen if she did. Then came the shift in media coverage. Blogs that had fueled speculation suddenly started hedging. Language softened. Phrases like allegedly multiplied. That kind of restraint doesn't appear out of nowhere. It suggested warnings had been issued, boundaries drawn. At the same time, independent commentators doubled down, insisting the hesitation meant something real was about to drop. The divide between caution and curiosity grew sharper by the hour. The alleged final witness reportedly made a quiet move that sent shockwaves through inner circles. Not a post. Not a leak. A meeting. A closed-door conversation with someone who had the power to change the narrative permanently. No one knows what was said, but after that meeting, several people who had publicly defended Tamar went silent. One even removed past statements without explanation. Silence like that speaks volumes. Emotionally, Tamar was said to be unraveling under the weight of anticipation. Insiders described sleepless nights, constant pacing, a fixation on what might come next. Fear does strange things to people, and according to those close to her, fear had replaced anger entirely. She allegedly asked one person, if it comes out, will they ever forgive me? The answer she received was devastatingly honest. That depends on what it is. Fans sensed it too. The energy online turned from excitement to dread. Even those who thrived on drama started saying this felt different. Heavier. More personal. Comment sections filled with concern, not just curiosity. Some urged compassion. Others demanded accountability. But nearly everyone agreed on one thing. Whatever was coming would change how Tamar was seen forever. Then, late one night, a post appeared from an account no one recognized. It didn't name names. It didn't accuse. It simply said, "I stayed quiet because I thought protecting you mattered. I was wrong." The post stayed up for exactly 9 minutes before disappearing. Screenshots spread instantly. People compared writing styles, timelines, emotional beats. The consensus was chilling. This wasn't a troll. This was someone who had lived inside the story. Within hours, Tamar's team issued their most carefully worded statement yet. It spoke of growth, mistakes, accountability, and healing. It still avoided specifics. To some, it sounded like preparation. To others, surrender. Towanda remained silent. That silence now felt like the loudest sound in the room. As dawn broke, one final rumor began circulating, quieter than the rest, but far more unsettling. Supposedly, the truth wouldn't come out in a leak or an interview. Supposedly, it would come out when someone else decided they were done carrying it. And when that happened, there would be no cliffhanger left, no edits, no spin. Just the truth, landing exactly where it was always going to land. If you've made it this far, understand this clearly. This story is not done. Not even close. What's happening right now is bigger than one post, one leak, or one viral moment. This is the kind of situation that changes careers, rewrites legacies, and exposes truths people fought for years to keep buried. And the scariest part: the next move hasn't happened yet. This is the moment where silence becomes complicity and attention becomes power. Because what happens next depends on who's watching, who's listening, and who refuses to let this get brushed under the rug. The insiders are watching the reaction. The players are watching the numbers. Every like, every comment, every subscription sends one message loud and clear: people want the truth, not the edited version. If you walk away now, you will miss the moment this story crosses the line from whispers to confirmation. You will miss who finally speaks, what finally surfaces, and who tries to rewrite history when it's already too late. And trust, when it happens, you won't hear it cleanly anywhere else. So hit that like button like it matters, because it does. Drop a comment with your thoughts, your theories, your questions, because the conversation is already happening with or without you. And subscribe right now, not later, because when the next chapter drops, it won't come with a warning. It will come fast, raw, and unfiltered. You don't want to be catching up. You want to be here when it breaks.